Hello everyone, it's Greg from Edinburgh Renaissance Fencing Academy here for another online fencing tutorial. Today we're going to talk about weapon handling skills for Grassi's late 16th century Italian rapier. By weapon handling, I really mean two different things. In part, I mean how to hold the sword correctly, and in part, I mean how to manipulate the weapon efficiently when you're performing fencing techniques. So we'll get started with the grip straight away. Grassi uses the classic Italian four-finger grip with this one finger looped over the front quillen of the crossguard. Very simple, but there's a little bit more to it than that. One of the common mistakes that people make in rapier fencing is to grip the sword too tightly. You can try this on your own if you've got a training weapon at home. If you take your four-finger grip and squeeze the grip or grip it really tightly with all your fingers, like I'm doing just now, you'll feel some tension here and here. This will very quickly result in muscle fatigue when you're fencing and will in fact reduce the control and efficiency of your fencing, which is obviously not a good thing in a fencing bout. So in order to develop better fine control of the weapon, we will examine the grip in a little bit more detail. Just going to move closer to the camera so we can get a close-up shot. So, the grip is led by the forefinger over the quillen as discussed. The thumb will go to meet the forefinger somewhere, either touching it or in the back of the blade or down near the quillen block. That's fine. But the important thing is what's happening to the handle of the sword itself. When you have your hand mostly open like this, the palm of the hand forms a little hollow, a sort of dish-shaped hollow, and we want this to be used to secure this part of the grip in our hand, and the ball of the thumb will actually wedge the weapon in place. The lower three fingers will only be used to lightly clasp the handle in order to stop it from moving around too much, but they will be very light. So these are actually doing most of the work. So forefinger over the quillen, ball of the thumb over the top of the handle so that it sits in the hollow, and then the thumb going wherever is natural for you for the thumb to sit. For me, it's just on the top of the forefinger, and the other fingers lightly clasping the handle of the weapon. Okay, back to a wider range shot. A little exercise to practice this is if you hold the weapon half extended in front of you with only the forefinger and the thumb clasping the weapon and the lower three fingers loose and not clasping it at all, the weapon should still be steady. And you can manipulate the point of the sword, left and right, up and down, just a little bit, keeping a nice relaxed arm. When you're able to achieve this, it means the sword is sitting correctly in your hand. You can then clasp the lower fingers gently over the handle, and then we have our complete grip, which is still nice and relaxed. There is not too much tension here and very little tension here. So that is how to grip the sword correctly. This allows for some flexibility when we're actually maneuvering the sword. So the lower three fingers can either squeeze tight when we need to perform a more aggressive action with the blade, or they can completely relax off of the grip if we need the sword to hang, like in this high hanging guard position. You can see my fingers are off the grip. So we need to be versatile in the grip. This is easiest to practice in a small cutting drill, which I will demonstrate very carefully because there's limited space here. But essentially what I'm going to do with my half relaxed grip, I will raise the hand, throw a little cut, squeeze the handle as I hit the target, and then relax off as I come back to my guard position. So relaxed hand, relaxed hand, relaxed hand, squeeze and relax. Relaxed, relaxed, squeeze and relax. Okay, so this squeezing and relaxing motion is essential to being able to fence for any length of time with a heavy 16th century sword. Okay, next thing I want to discuss is a theme I've expounded on before, which is the fact that the big actions in the Grassi system, the cuts, the thrusts, the parries, are primarily driven using the torso, with the arm and the hand guiding the sword, but not really driving it. So this next short exercise is just to practice this mechanic. So I'm going to stand with my rear hand clamped on my hip, just so you can see what my torso is doing. The sword is held partially extended in front of us. If I make some simple parrying motions only using my arm, like this, you'll see my torso is not moving. My forearm will quite quickly get tired because this muscle is doing all of the work. We don't want this. We want the torso to do the work, so practice it like this. Hold the sword in front of you and do not move your arm at all. Just turn your torso. You will see that the blade of the sword rotates from side to side, a little bit like the turret of a modern tank. And that's the core mechanic that we want to use. However, the tip of the sword shouldn't come offline like that. It's only a training exercise. So, to complete the picture, we're going to combine the torso rotation with the relaxed hand grip we talked about before. So we're just going to gently adjust our hand to keep the tip of the sword pointed at our opponent as we move the bulk of the blade using the torso rotation. And that's it. So 2 simple concepts to improve your weapon handling. A light grip on the sword with the squeeze and release mechanism as necessary when you're fencing, and then the torso rotation mechanic in order to move the blade from side to side as we need to do during parries and cuts and thrusts when we're fencing. So that's it. I really recommend that you do practice this at home. And one final note is that the specifics of how your sword handles and sits in your hand very much depend on the design of your specific sword. This rapier feels a certain way in my hand. Other rapiers feel different. So I do recommend that you practice with each of the training weapons that you intend to use. I hope that's been of interest to you, and I hope it is useful for your progression as a fencer. That's all for today. I'll be back next time with another online tutorial video. See you then.